Very interesting.
I do like this Sivir ban. We saw it a bit in the Demacia Cup. Again, one of the reasons you do it, they love these speed comps. They love Sivir Hecarim, Sivir Sion. Very tanky, engaged top laners. And in general, Sivir's so good in this 5.6 meta. You know, she was must-pick, must-ban at the start of the LPL.
Yeah.
But suddenly everyone's like, all right, Jinx, all these other hyper carries can lane against the Sivir. No more Sivir. So Sivir fell away for a few weeks. Suddenly, you have all these health stackers with good CC, good disruption that struggle to get into team fights. You bring back the Sivir. So Sivir's back in the meta, synergizes so well with the Cinderhulk users, and it gets the target ban in this situation, and Vladimir bans. Man, it's a weird world we're in, Atlas.
It is a very weird world, and I'm a bit sad that he got banned away because I want to see why this Vladimir is getting banned.
And that's towards Jia, so that may be something that he's been using in solo queue. Remember, when he stepped onto the team, he was top of solo queue in China. So,
yeah.
I mean, he's very visible at this point. Everybody knows what he's playing.
Oh my goodness. What world do we live in, Papa Smithy, when there's an Urgot in the ban list?
I mean, Urgot, the one thing you can say, excellent lane matchup against Zed. Probably just hovering the Zed is a bit of fun, but Urgot being banned away, this is where we're at, Atlas. This is where the world is at. And Sejuani came through the ban pool, so that's also where the world is at. So Sejuani's locked in.
Yeah, and Aluka going to take away the Maokai here, and you have to think that's a little bit of a pick away from Koro, of course, on that the last 5 times here in the LPL, but Aluka does love a super tank. It doesn't actually matter which one it is, but thinking about maybe an Aurelia as well. We'll see what World Elite decide to go with in the end.
And getting people away from comfort is always a very important factor in League of Legends. So maybe just picking up the Maokai, taking it away, saying, all right, I know you're good, EDG. I know, Koro, you're a good laner. Koro, to me, started the season very, very impressively. Kind of fell away over the weeks, especially the middle part of the season. Got solo killed by Kohler a couple of times. Was struggling in general. Just get him out of his comfort zone just to try and get at least 1 or 2 winning lanes if you're World Elite.
And speaking of World Elite, locking in the LeBlanc here as well as you hovering over some comfort picks there, Papa Smithy. We'll see what he goes with. And it is going to be the lock-in of the Lissandra, a bit of a flex pick here. Very Freljordian.
I really like this pick against LeBlanc, though, just because, again, LeBlanc's all about getting harassed from Distortion. That became the max when there were nerfs towards the Q ability. Distortion became the max. Mimic Distortion is one of the things we say multiple times in a game with LeBlanc. One of the best answers, of course, it doesn't silence anymore. You just throw on that Frozen Tomb and get the pick on the LeBlanc. So I very much like Lissandra. I'm assuming it's going to be mid, but even if they're just picking it for comp, it deals a lot with what LeBlanc is doing.
Well, I do like the icy vibe that they have going on. World Elite going to continue that one by having a look at a Nunu here as well for Spirit. And you have to think that, you know, having the Cinderhulk now is part of a general jungler's build path. Nunu must have benefited from that one.
And this is one of the big reasons people are saying that Snake was buffed in patch 5.5 and 5.6. They're so strong with the Nunu comps. Suddenly Nunu's going to get more AoE clears. Clear was already fast in terms of big minions. He's definitely been indirectly buffed with the introduction of Cinderhulk. Already was a health stacker to match anyone. You know, gets the extra health when he chomps on a golem as well, I believe. The extra maximum health. Nunu's going to be very, very happy in this meta. The Kalista pickup we kind of skipped over. I believe this is Def's first Kalista game. He's not been playing Kalista at all this season. And Kalista Nautilus is what they're suggesting. Can you say CC when you're talking about Nautilus with an extra CC from Fate's Call?
I don't understand how that even should ever be a thing. Nautilus getting more CC, Papa Smithy, but it's happening. It is most definitely happening. And you could even put off your depth charge, get that shooting at someone, and then Fates Call yourself in there for like mega knockups of Destiny. I'm very, very frightened to see what could come out of this bottom lane from EDG, but it looks like Lucian is probably going to try and weather the storm from Mystic.
I mean, you look down this EDG lineup. I mean, crowd control. We thought there was a lot coming out from King in our previous series that we casted Atlas, but Sejuani, Lissandra, Jarvan with the uncleansable CC, and then Nautilus with 4 CCs of his own and the Fates Call to help out. That's a lot of CC, and they lock in Graves. Maybe this is going to be the Legolas build. Maybe they're going to go for the Last Whisper into the Bloodthirst, the Last Whisper, because you don't want to get in range of any of this CC.
No, he's going to be doing all of his damage with collateral damage from underneath the turret, maybe in his Nexus. Like, it's ridiculous amounts of engage potential to come through, and it does look like Yu is going to be taking that Lissandra into the mid lane here as well. So Glacial Path right into the middle of everyone and then getting down these Frozen Tombs. And from a mid laner, that's a whole lot more resources to use and a lot more damage potential.
Definitely has the wave clear advantage. It's a pretty safe matchup against LeBlanc because when you get the Frozen Tomb, you can use that defensively on the enemy or just the self-cast to maybe run through Ignite or if you're under turret. We actually end up with the top lane. Jarvan is the matchup.
Interesting.
He has range farm. He can do just decently in this matchup, but it's not ideal, you'd have to say. Maybe just picking for comp.
And we sort of skipped over that one, but of course with the Jarvan coming through, but Jarvan is a decent top laner in his own right.
And Jarvan has a lot of CC at level 2. Maybe that will help their skirmish. Sejuani herself, pre-6, doesn't have a lot of skirmish ability, but if you add in Jarvan, it almost feels like an embarrassment of both damage and CC coming through.
Oh yeah, we'll see how it does work out. Of course, Mystic with a bit of an advantage here as far as the level 6 potential is concerned with this Graves. Massive amount of burst means that sort of Kallista's not going to be able to do a whole lot in order to avoid that, especially considering the fact that it does have a fair bit of spray. But we'll see how these lanes are going to shake out moving into this one and who's going to switch it up and whether we're even going to see a lane swap this time.
And Deft's Kalista, that's a big question mark. He hasn't shown this champion. That's probably the reason why it slipped through picks and bans. This has been a must-pick, must-ban champion in multiple metas across multiple regions. It's available for the 3rd round of picks. And now Deft can show us, I don't think there's much doubt, but he's going to show us what his Kallista's all about.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how that one works, but let's get onto the Rift and find out for ourselves. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with our final game of the evening. EDG taking on World Elite. And we shall see exactly how this one shakes out. You on the lineup here instead of Pawn. Some exciting changes to come through. And Nautilus support seems to have erupted into the LPL.
I mean, we've seen it in other regions. We didn't know whether it would be an off-meta pick or an in-meta pick, but just the general tankiness, the fact that the Riptide's on such a short cooldown, down to 6 seconds, gives them more consistent CC uptime, which is obviously what Nautilus needed, as I see your incredulous look. But the depth charge, the Riptide consistently, just the passive, and then, of course, the Dredge line is so much CC. The Fate's Call, we'll call it a 5th CC for Nautilus because he clicks where he wants to be re-engaged upon. Very, very tanky. Hasn't necessarily had the biggest win rate, though, today. So we'll wait to see whether EDG can pull it off. Kalista Nautilus, I do see the synergy there, though.
Oh, yeah, you can definitely see the synergy. Ridiculous amounts of CC into even more CC. Oh, Gia actually going to take away the little Raptors here as well for a little bit of an experience boost. I like that cute little play there from the mid laner.
It's what you do with Maokai is you put down a couple of saplings, then you just distort over, and you can do this with REQ as well. Waterley have done this with a couple of different champions. If you have any champions that can prop damage, like for example the Maokai sapling, you can just get, it's only a couple of little Raptors, but again, it's the difference between a fast level 2 and a delayed one.
Yeah, and speaking of delaying a level 2, Mako doesn't quite have his. He's being very aggressive here. It's the Riptide just to slow down his assailants, but just trying to give WE a hard time.
And just want to try and delay the level 2 as you put out. Delay the jungle pathing, ensure the gank is 10 seconds later. Maybe that's enough time for the top lane to back, buy a ward, come into lane. We didn't even consider this, but of course with the lane swap being initiated by World Elite, suddenly you have the jungle follow with quite a lot of CC in Sejuani Jarvan.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. If they manage to catch anyone out, it's going to be very, very frightening. They haven't actually entered the enemy jungle just yet, but you have to think that if they do decide to go that route, it will be very, very frightening for World Elite to find them. GA now actually with a lot of pressure here in the mid lane. Nice chain's going to land onto you, and that's some decent trading here early on.
And look, this matchup is fine from level 6 onwards, but in the early levels, you know, Lissandra's not the highest health champion. You do take a lot of harass from LeBlanc. You don't have a lot of lane control in this situation. You always worry when the enemy team has Nunu and you have a defensive jungler like Sejuani, low pressure in the mid lane, low pressure from the jungle. There are definitely windows that can be exploited by World Elite in the early to mid game.
Yeah, and we saw GA just be very, very strong on this LeBlanc, especially in IAM when we saw him there. But we'll see whether it's going to be a similar performance. Of course, very different patch back then. LeBlanc with a few changes, of course, just generally a few changes. Deft, beautiful use of the pierce. It looks like pretty comfortable on this Kalista.
There was never really any surprises about that. Will we see anything different? Will we see maybe the single target build coming through from the Kalista, which is what we saw coming out against VG Gaming a few weeks ago, that really intensely, just Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, or Static Shift into Last Whisper. It's probably going to go for the early power spike just because Kalista's kind of a unique champion. She's probably the only AD carry in League of Legends that peaks at 2 items. You'd have to say Bloodthirster Hurricane is definitely, in terms of AD carries, her biggest power spike. You could maybe compare it to Corki when you're talking about Trinity Force Bloodthirster, for example.
Yeah, correct.
But I give the edge to Kalista because she does so many things. She can push, she can team fight, and she can get resets in a team fight. She's such a unique champion. But, man, Bloodthirster Hurricane, you're feeling pretty damn good as a Kalista.
Yeah, and it especially sort of buffs exactly how you play the champion at the same time. You all of a sudden have so much sustain, so much wave clear as well. It changes how you move around the map, what you do here, especially if you go for that Bloodthirster first. As soon as you get that Hurricane, you can clear waves for days, instantly.
I feel like the Hurricane has kind of been found out as a one-item, like, rush purchase, because, again, if you rotate around the enemy team getting a Hurricane in the Kalista, you can know that she has no wave control, and you can exploit that with just prepping your minions. It's in the top lane.
Yeah, very nice death sentence. Koro actually going very, very low, as Mako might have found himself in an uncomfortable position here as well, as Mystic and UJ doing their very best to try and catch them out, but a little bit too tanky, and somehow EDG survived. But you have to think that Koro probably did not want to be tanking that turret.
A heroic disengaged dredge line, though, keeps him alive. Importantly, Nautilus was happy to take the aggro because Exhaust was available, was finally used at the end, and had Flash, whereas, of course, Koro had already used Flash. A very good play from what many people say might be the rising support star in the LPL.
Yeah, well, it's true. And Glacial Path from Yuga and get him out of the way of this 3-man gank in the mid lane. Haluka paying a visit up there, going to leave Deft on his own, but Yu is going to be more than safe. Chain not going to find it either, as, yeah, Gio going to take a tower hit.
I mean, World Elite, in terms of their side lanes in particular, 28 CS to 15 CS is a significant advantage for Luca. He even had time to roam and complement that advantage. The flag's being pushed in, though.
Actually, Mako getting some stuns out here, but another death sentence going to land from Yuji. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, there's the Frozen Tomb to come down. Yu not going to quite find it as the Ignite ticks down, and Jie is going to survive that one. Continues to be able to farm out this wave, and that is the ultimate down. So that is a big deal here, as the ward is going to spot World Elite heading back to this mid lane, and Yu with his extra Doran's ring just going to chill out for a moment.
We'll just have to fill in the blanks and assume that the pressure wasn't successful on top. No ultimate used, no kills coming through. Yu finally gets a bit more lane control. He was struggling in the early levels, but suddenly at 6 you can see he's able to burst Jie out, or at least in terms of lane control, and start to match the CS values from this LeBlanc.
Yeah, and Jie actually using the flash here as well, and of course LeBlanc fairly slippery, but not having that summoner spell is enough to make anyone wary. As Jie just going to do his very best to clear out these creeps underneath the turret, and does a great job at doing so. Even dodging out of the way of some of the harassment here from Yu.
Yu back on the lineup again. It was looking worrying in the early levels when he was being pushed in, where it didn't look like a lane control. He has it now. Koro eats a binding.
Yuji is brilliant on these death sentences. Mystic doesn't want to come in. He just, no. There's creeps here. Don't really want to follow that one. Is Yu actually going to catch Yu out, but it seems to be both members catching each other at this current moment, as Jie gets caught by that Ring of Frost.
And has, of course, come into the early Fiendish Codex, so he's got his spells effectively, but no mana whatsoever at this point. So uses last bit for wave clear, wants to back away. Blue buff has respawned, desperately needs that for lane control.
Yeah, he's going to miss out on a wave, though, because, of course, this Lissandra fantastic at clearing out these waves. Might be able to pick up a couple of them, but now with that blue buff, a lot more wave clear available from Jie, and has that level 7. And see whether he's going to be affecting this map, whether he's going to be roaming around, or whether he's just going to continue to put pressure on here in the mid lane.
Building damage is the job, and maybe building towards just a Brutalizer, could be towards a TM out. I guess we're not sure.
Yeah.
But double Brute, I mean, their swords might be important right now.
Yeah, actually, Yuji getting caught out here, forced to use that flash already. There's the flash, everything used, and EDG pick up first blood, and it goes to Koro.
Clearlove got a very quick level 6, actually before the Nunu at this point, used the Glacial Prison very effectively in that situation. The double longswords helped out, and that engage, and actually Koro picks up the gold. So whatever damage he's looking for, it's going to be snowballed.
Yeah, we'll see whether that does come through. Of course, do you still need 2 longswords to build into that Tiamat?
You do not. I was incorrect on that one. So Brutalize is the most obvious choice. I guess it could be, say, a Phage and a Tiamat. You're not necessarily... You'll find something for those swords, Atlas. Jarvan will find a way.
Yeah, that is very, very true. A Hex Drinker also probably an option that he might want to go for here, considering fair bit of magic damage to come through, but you have to think that a Brutalizer, always a fantastic choice for a Jarvan who already has a fair bit of armor shred. Aluka forced to use the flash in the bottom lane. Mako and Deft with a lot of pressure down there as well. We'll see whether the re-rotation of this lane swap is going to come through, because of course Dragon has not really been looked at here. There's an EDG ward, but apart from that, not so much. Ooh, Dark Passage is going to be used to get Spirit into this top lane, but Koro already wise to it, and he's already backed off.
The Spirit has spent all his gold onto the Cinderhawks, gone for the Chilling Smite Cinderhawk. So again, very aggressive choice between the Snowball and the...
Very chilly.
Very chilling, absolutely. Lots of movement speed stealing, lots of slows coming through from his kit. Doesn't have boots though, so will be out... to be fair, neither does Clear Love. Has the Arctic Assault though for slightly more mobility.
Oh yeah, Blood Boil's there as well. I think if they were to have a race, it does depend on how far they're running, as opposed to... sort of, you know, just when it comes to working out who's actually going to be quicker. But the thing I want to talk about, Papa Smithy, is the fact that Koro's picked up his Brutalizer and he now has a pickaxe as well.
So it's probably not going to be a Last Whisper, probably going to be a Tiamat that we were discussing, but that is
very
damage heavy. Sejuani is unique in that she gets health damage scaling, so she's building tanky and doing more damage. The Jarvan's just straight up going for damage. One of the best ways to deal with Graves or LeBlanc, who like to overextend for damage early, is just to kill them.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to deal with most champions. So, and look, the burst potential to come through from that slam dunk Cataclysm as well, if you build damage, is utterly ridiculous.
I believe it's a 1.2 AD scaling on his Q, around that scaling on his ult. Both of them are over 1 AD bonus scaling. He's building AD, so he's looking good.
Yeah, looking very, very good. And we'll see whether he can sort of avoid exploding himself before he can actually get off those abilities. You can see you actually picking up a Null Magic Mantle, has a blasting one, so it looks like an Abyssal Scepter very early on here for this Lissandra, not wanting to go for any of that mana in the early stages. And we've seen a lot of Lissandras, especially from the top lane, go for that cooldown reduction, but looks like you just wants to get the extra damage.
I think the cooldown reduction will come eventually. This is just a reaction to being against LeBlanc. Chalice not going to fit into the build, not rushing towards an Athene's, probably still going to be a Morellonomicon, but you get that Abyssal, you have significant kill pressure, you push even better, which, you know, you didn't really need that on Lissandra, but after the last few tweaks, I believe that's about 40 damage less on the Q after the set of Nurse that came through in patch 5.5, which we skipped, but of course, in action in this situation. Even more wave clear, instant wave clear you'd have to think coming through, so I don't mind the purchase. Delaying the CDR is fine, you still need to pick it up at some point, because again, 40% CDR for Major seems like the new standard.
Wow, that was beautiful from Deft. Actually managed to get an extra Ren stack, as you can see just there onto Mystic, as his ward died in that brush. You can see 3 members now on this bottom side. Sentinel, a pretty decent tool to scout out what's going on here, as Mako not quite level 6 yet. Deft level 8 though, so has the Fate's Call. And that might be the knock-up that Mako's looking for. Oh, actually, Dredgeline going to find the wall as Fate's Call just comes through. Yuji now in a lot of trouble here as Deft actually going to get the focus. Collateral damage comes through, but Yuji going to fall down. Deft just hanging out on the backside. Actually coming straight back in here, as well as the heal's going to be used to try and save Clear Love, but that's the double kill for Aluka as he comes in, and Mystic's still alive. They might be able to get a lot of damage onto this turret. Koro thinking about whether or not to come in. He doesn't have the Cataclysm. That is very, very important.
They caught LeBlanc in transition, so it is actually a 2 for 2, I believe, coming through after all of this. It was 1-0 previous to that fight. Deft lives, perhaps the critical factor, can mop up the CS. It's actually 18 CS up. But World Elite, they have healthy members and looking to try and pick up this Dragon.
Yeah, Mako and Clear Love have respawned. They're trying to get over to this Dragon as quickly as possible. World Elite actually forced off it here as the Sentinel's going to come around, use there as well. Doesn't have the Frozen Tomb, but EDG intimidating enough to stop World Elite from doing the Dragon.
Yeah, but Jarvan will use the teleport to get back to lane, doesn't have it up for Dragon, so this must be, with the ward, with the knowledge that World Elite just started, EDG saying, okay, you guys have the first Dragon, we're not in a position in terms of our minion waves to be able to contest, and also it looks like Deft has a big purchase coming up.
Yeah, he's actually gone back and picked up that Bloodthirster like you mentioned. 20 CS in the lead on this Kalista, but of course having solo lanes for both of these AD carries and a little bit less pressure to come through onto this Kalista means that it's not necessarily about a 1v1, and this is the kill onto GA.
Yep, I mean, when you stack AD on a job and you do a lot of burst damage, Lissandra no slouch either. LeBlanc doesn't have the highest base stats, no armor to speak of, dies instantly.
Yeah, and when you're stunned up in that frozen tomb as well, there's nothing you can do. You can't use any of those escape abilities, and, you know, GA may have wanted to think about taking a cleanse.
And it'll be interesting to see how this damage Jarvan builds. I believe we've seen it once before in the LPL, the full damage Jarvan. It can definitely be exploited. You're very, very squishy in this build. But to be honest, it feels like Jarvan will be doing the same duty as LeBlanc in terms of the mid game.
Yeah.
You face this, check this Jarvan, unless you're Nunu, or maybe to a lesser extent Maokai, but probably Maokai as well, you're going to die instantly.
Yeah, and he's now picked up the Tiamat as well, has another longsword. So that could be the Hydra. He might be going full Hydra, Papa Smithy.
I mean, whatever it is, it's just even more damage. You takes a nice burst, but with the Abyssal Scepter's able to shake most of it away. How this Jarvan plays out will be interesting, because there'll become a point where he spent too much damage too much of his gold on damage items, and he won't be able to fill the same role we expect from a Jarvan in a fight. It's going to have a lot of pressure required on clear level, and to a lesser extent Lissandra, to get that Zhonya's at a very fast clip to be able to be effective frontlines. This Jarvan is deceptively squishy, uses the flash to try and get the flash knock up afterwards, but no cigar.
Yeah, doesn't quite find it onto Spirit, who actually does trade flashes here with this top laner, so top for jungle flashes are going to be traded. It's, you know, probably okay on both sides here, making sure they can get those summoner spells out, and Spirit not going to be flash snowballing anyone to stop any damage.
But Spirit, to respect an EQ flash, shows just on the level he's thinking on. He knew exactly what Jarvan was going for, so to preemptively flash and predict an EQ flash, that's high-level League of Legends.
Yeah, damn right. And who else do you expect that out of other than Spirit? I mean, this guy is amazing. Tends to know exactly what's going on. Of course, we're here again having a little bit of a pausation, but we will get back to the game as soon as possible and see whether Koro can make this Jarvan work.
Again, you just have to teamfight so specifically. You need to think of yourself as a LeBlanc, as an assassin, rather than necessarily a teamfight initiator. Sejuani is going to do the heavy lifting in a teamfight, and they're looking to get massive burst damage down onto the backline in particular during that Glacial Prison 1.5 second stun, because after that, you turn around this Jarvan. Even Mystic is going to be DPSing down this Jarvan with surprising ease.
Mako as well is going to get fairly tanky in the later stages of this game as well if he manages to pick up any of these items on this Nautilus. So, you know, maybe they're thinking that they will still have 2 tanks.
Again, you just have to get the work done during the burst, because after the burst is through, there's not much left.
And speaking of burst, you actually going to use his ultimate on himself here as well. Cataclysm comes through, gets a lot of damage onto Gio. The Ignite's there as well. Doesn't quite land the chain as the depth charge does come through. World Elite now on the run here as there's so many low health bars. Descent's not going to find the mark. Mako has to be very careful.
The layering of damage wasn't ideal, though, and at this point, EDG have to back away. Jarvan doesn't really have a threat of re-engage at half health against Mystic. Mystic flash of the depth charge was actually very smart. Got to the back of the fight. There was no multiple man knockup. EDG, they went for something. They went for the layering CC. That time, at least, it didn't come off.
Yeah, didn't quite manage to work that one out, but of course, Def now with a bit more money to spend. Still 20 CS in the lead, has picked himself up a kill now as well. And these fights, when it does look like that, with EDG able to CC up multiple members, you just have to think that as soon as Deft has that Hurricane, the amount of damage to go over these team fights is going to be so much bigger.
And it's going to require a Luca and Spirit to find a way to separate themselves from the other threats and really force the Ren to only be spreading to the super tanky frontline coming through from World Elite. Spirit and Luca, they only have Workman-like 80 items, but they're still very, very tanky. You try and force down this mid lane turret. A lot of damage on it, but not quite down.
Yeah, a fair bit of damage onto Mako as well, as Jade looking to try and get some damage off, but doesn't quite manage to land the chain as Mako sidesteps it nicely. Deft picks up a couple of extra creeps with that Pierce as well and is looking to potentially head back to base and pick up some more items.
Sitting on a very big stack of gold. Not sure if it's enough for a straight-up Hurricane, but I imagine we'll find out very, very shortly. Comfortably 25 CS ahead of his lane opponent in terms of Graves. We always wait for that par timing on the Hurricane. No, he's not going Hurricane. Much more of a single target focus. I guess he's really respecting the tankiness coming through from Maokai and Nunu.
Yeah, very interesting. Has an extra dagger here as well, so not...
Phantom Dancer.
Yeah, looking like a Phantom Dancer instead of that static Shiv. Of course, could be those Berserker's Greaves as well. We'll see what he does decide to go with, but I have a feeling it might be more of an Imp-esque build, and that sort of makes sense.
It's just a very interesting adaptation. It looked like Hurricane would be the pick. Again, it's been the standard just because the 2-item power spike is almost unmatched. It kind of justifies the Calista build because you have a 2-item power spike, and then if it gets to the 6-item set, you could always sell that Hurricane and pick up, for example, a Phantom Dancer in that situation. But seems to be opting away from the 2-item power spike with just early attack speed and some critical strike.
Yeah, and it seems like Deft probably going for more of a single target build, feeling like he might get separated from his team. Like you were mentioning, what World Elite probably want to do to this Kalista.
Yeah, if he has kill pressure on a single Maokai or Nunu dive, that might change how team fights work. Because in the backline, it's going to be the merely DPS glass cannon, you'd have to say, Koro at this point. Looking like Last Whisper is going to be the third pickup.
My goodness.
He's just going full damage.
He's going full Talon.
Absolutely. I mean, he's basically a top lane AD assassin.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's almost like Pawn is in this game.
Look,
you know,
I don't
of course,
mind
one of the best talent
we
players.
see, for example, going playing Rek'Sai goes Tiamat into tanky. We see Trinity Force into tanky as a standard thing, but this is just 3 damage items.
Yeah. He's going well into it. We'll see what he does manage to pull off in the later stages of the game, whether this is going to, you know, bite him in the end or whether it's actually going to work out here for Koro, because I believe it was Koro that tried out the Riven and didn't quite find it.
It wasn't Koro, it was
No,
Carry.
it was Carry. That was Carry. That's my bad.
It's okay. Riven, certainly not in Koro's champion pool as far as we can see so far, but he's shown us interesting things, and full damage Jarvan, it's right up there.
Yeah, and just the likes of EDG just sort of makes sense. Is UJ actually going to get caught out? And speaking of Koro, he's going to get a whole heap of damage down, and that was just an EQ combo into just a beautiful engage from EDG.
They get the first pick. We're waiting to see if they transition onto Dragon. Deft is separated from his team. You can see actually some defensive pings. He needs a bit of help.
Yeah, maybe. Mako is there to try and help out.
Initiation options from World Elite do require flash twisted engage. Flashes down. Nunu can of course slow, but not cause any hard engage. EDG thinking about the re-engage.
Yeah, Mako very aggressive on this Nautilus. Always wants to put himself between his team and the enemy team wherever possible, because he knows that as long as he can CC up a few members with his first round of spells, he doesn't really worry too much about dying.
The scary thing about, for example, Blitzcrank, a more standard pick-based support champion, is the threat of the hook, right? You're always like, okay,
yeah,
he might throw out the hook at any point. It's even scarier when it's support Nautilus, because it don't require any skill to hit those hooks when you just throw out the depth charge first and then align them up. So the area of control Nautilus has when he walks into lane, when he's at least competitive in terms of tankiness, is actually quite large, because you have to respect that targeted engage.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And as soon as you get that depth charge, it's the easiest dredge line in the world to be able to pull that member into your team. World Elite now looking to set up this second dragon for themselves. They have pulled it out of the pit, but EDG, they now have members available. Koro's teleporting in here as well, as Mako is going to get Fates called into the enemy. Aluka just in a bouncing castle, and look at that frozen tomb. So much extra damage as Depth. He is trying to deal with the fact that he does have a snowball in his back, but GA not able to lock him down, and Yuji going to fall down in the back line as Koro's picking up more kills on this map. This AD Jarvan is going off this game.
The amount of burst coming through from the Frozen Tomb, the Glacial Prison, and even just the EQ combo from Jarvan was huge in those facts. And maybe that's the reason we're seeing Deft go for the single target build. Everyone else is going for burst. Maybe there's just that worry that in the late game the burst is outscaled. So just go single target and be the insurance your team needs.
Yeah, and look at Koro's build now. Ravenous Hydra, Last Whisper, and the Brutalizer. That's ridiculous.
And Glacial Shroud from Maokai is not going to help him in the split push. It's not going to be able to instantly kill him, but you certainly don't want to overextend to this Jarvan. It's a full damage Jarvan, not even a Hex Drinker to say, oh, look, I'm tanky, got some magic resist over here. Nothing whatsoever, only about the damage. He's going to be tanky by life-stealing up in the front line.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and now going to do so much extra AoE damage as well with that Ravenous Hydra. And that also gives you a whole lot of extra lifesteal as well in the middle of a fight, where is exactly where he wants to be, as we saw just there.
The burst coming through is insane. The single target build is confirmed by Def. It is the Phantom Dancer. So now it comes an awkward situation where the burst, look, it's itemized. It's ready to go coming through the Glacial Prison into the Jarvan Flag and Drag, let alone throwing in the Frozen Tomb in that situation, is already massive burst. And then if Aluka tries to dive into the backline onto Kalista, he won't find a Hurricane-focused, AoE-focused Kalista. He's going to find single target damage and considerable single target damage.
Yeah, he's going to find a hole in his head because of this Kalista shooting him with his little arrows? Are we going to call them arrows?
Sure. I mean, attack speed and critical strike's the big factor, right? That's the thing that Kalista's like. That's the thing that stops an attack speed focused build from being relevant against tanks, is that critical strike, that's what gets through these tanky members. There's a reason it's all about Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper. Bloodthirst is an ample solution. Don't have quite the same critical strike, but it's going to do certainly plenty of work.
Yeah, and the AD is only going to augment those crits even more as Deft is going to nimbly take down this turret as well. And World Elite, they do just feel like they're on the back foot. They're playing more from behind than they were before. They took a decent dragon early on, but now they've let it slip. 4,000 gold is the lead, a little bit more. Things looking quite dangerous for our World Elite lineup. And
EDG fighting around their pink wards. You can see on the minimap 3 pink wards in this area. That's a really big overextension from Nunu.
Yeah, Spirit may be caught out just a little bit. Frozen Tomb does come through. Almost manages to latch onto the Dark Passage, but Yuji not quite able to get it far enough in range. And EDG might take this as an opportunity to start off the Baron. They have a heck of a lot of Baron damage.
Yeah, Klilov really didn't want to use the Glacial Prison on one member, but when he saw the Dark Passage, he had to start. As you mentioned, Baron damage is high, but health values are low. Koro especially can't afford to tank this Baron.
Yeah, Mako trying to use the Titan's Wrath to do so there as well. The Glacial Path to come through. Aluka just getting bounced around this fight. Does try and engage onto the backline, but it's not enough as he gets taken down by Deft. Yuji now so incredibly low. GA trying to use his Mimic to stop things from happening. The heal to come through from Deft. Mystic's gonna fall. And Clearlove, Arctic assaulting some minions because he knows he's not gonna catch up to that LeBlanc. And you have to think EDG probably just going to go straight back to the Baron. And
there were two deceptive factors in that team fight. Firstly, the CC came through from the Jarvan ultimate, but critically the damage did not. The damage did not register. He died during the slam dunk animation, and Kalista was able to sidestep the collateral damage in the fight with the Marshall points. Not even flash required to being used. So some excellent mechanical plays from Deft. Again, the damage not being registered, that would have really ensured the team fight victory for EDG. It's quite even all in all.
Yeah, not too bad. But, and you know, most importantly, World Elite, they stop the Baron, and that is very, very strong. And Frozen Heart completed now by Aluka. He's only going to get a bigger and bigger in that back line, trying to be a nuisance here for this Kalista. And if Deft can't auto-attack fast enough, he's not going to be able to bounce away from all of these important abilities that have to miss from World Elite, because the burst coming through from Mystic, the burst coming through from GA is very, very scary.
Absolutely. It needs to be feared, but the item timings are very good coming through for EDG. The Merc tries for a semblance of tank. Finally, we get to see Koro against his lane opponent. EQ does about a quarter, maybe a fifth of Aluka's health. He's not shrugging it off exactly, but he's not enjoying it either.
No, he's not too bad, though. Of course, doesn't necessarily have the kill pressure here, but see whether Aluka can still manage to actually push out these waves against the Jarvan, because as soon as Koro can make sure that, you know, Aluka can't counter push against him, then that is the split push Jarvan easily working out.
I mean, with all that AoE wave clear, Jarvan already had decent base values on the queue for a bit of AoE wave clear, but going full damage, of course, just doubles down on that wave clear, makes it basically instant. EDG have a lot of wave clear in this game between their top and mid laner. Definitely the mid laner and top laner. The sole wave clear of the team. It's not necessarily long-ranged wave clear, but it is instant.
Yeah, Koro's not stopping, by the way. I thought that he might just leave it as the Brutalizer, but he's going for a Ghost Blade.
Yeah, the very late Avarice Blade. The investment banker in me is a little bit disappointed with the timing, but the Ghost Blade, again, it makes him a split pusher that has to be feared. When you have the Yomu's Ghost Blade especially, you can activate that on turret and just DPS it down a turret with all this AD stacking in an instant. Yeah,
it's going to be very, very quick as Spirit might have found himself overextended just a little bit. Glacial Path from you trying to get into this one as Aluka trying to get into the backline. Forced to use that flash. Spirit, he's going to explode. Koro's going to fall down as well. It's a 1-for-1 so far as Clearlove looking for an opportunity to use his oldest. Deft bounces over the wall. There's the Frozen Tomb. You always managing to get so many members. Mystic's going to die at the same time. Deft unhindered in that fight. And I have to say, his Lissandra is amazing.
Yeah, you should not be underestimated as a mid laner. It's a bit of a misnomer. Let's call him a sub-mid laner when he took EDG to 10 domestic tournaments last year.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
a fantastic player. 4-0-8 on Lissandra. No slouch. Steps back into the lineup with ease, and EDG should be able to take down this Baron. Deft has to do a lot of tanking. He's getting low.
Yep, the rend is going to be there, though, and Clearlove going to take that one down with a smite. I'm not even sure whether Deft actually rendered that. My goodness. The Baron, though, did not win the fight, and it is going to be EDG locking that one down. UJ looking to try and get Spirit. No, he just decides he doesn't really want to take that Dark Passage, and they're going to try and lock down this dragon before EDG can get there. But let's have a look at this fight again.
Let's watch the replay, and Jarvan was a bit of a non-factor in this fight. Goes in aggressive, he's straight off the map. You're just watching the backline. He dies very, very fast to focus fire from multiple members, so dies in the front line. The DPS Jarvan not working for once, but still, Kallista's been able to free hit in the backline. Doesn't have the Ren set build, doesn't actually get any kill credit whatsoever, but still is hopping around, has a lot of single target damage. And the Northern Winds, that's the consistent damage they have coming through. Sejuani, you can't ignore her damage.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Actually, there's the Fate's Call. Mako lands it as well. The Spirit just explodes. That was so beautifully played. And my gosh, EDG, it doesn't matter who they've got in their lineup. It looks like Pawn, it doesn't matter. Still looking brilliant.
And the off-meta pick in this case is just the full damage Jarvan for the second time in the LPL. It's definitely not off-meta compared to what we've seen in terms of shenanigans today, but it's working out.
It is working out. Collateral damage going to be used to try and clear out this minion wave. This inhibitor turret is going to fall down. There's the depth charge going to be used. Yu takes a whole lot of his health. GA, though, is going to explode. Koro, oh, the ultimate to come through from Clearlove here as well. Mystic almost dies instantly as Yu trying to pick up the kill. He does take the Glacial Path, then ults himself. Aluka now in the bouncing castle that is the lineup of EDG. And the inhibitor is going to fall down. 2 members are dead now for World Elite, and EDG, they're going to take the inhib and go.
And Spirit gets a bit of hollow retribution, taking down Jarvan, but it's not going to be a lot for this World Elite lineup. The base has been broken. Over 11,000 gold is the advantage for EDG. They're in firm control. We thought with the change in personnel, maybe EDG would skip a beat, but it's not looking like it.
Yeah, not looking like it at all. And you just coming into that mid lane as well and looking so strong. And you saw just there, that last engage, just so much mastery of that champion in Lissandra, and it's a difficult thing for these teams when you don't know exactly who a player is very strong on, because they haven't played against you for quite some time.
Absolutely, Yu has just been biding his time, obviously adding to his champion pool without the global scrutiny, or at least the Chinese fan scrutiny coming through in the LPL. Lissandra certainly seems to be in his repertoire, you'd have to say. Has the voice stuff to go with the CDR, but it's 40% CDR. Probably not achieved just yet, but has at least, 25, 35% when he picks up the blue buff.
Yeah, and Deft and you actually with the same kill participation in this game. 5-0-10, 4-0-11.
Koro's got a pickaxe.
Koro's got another pickaxe, yeah. Do you think that's an Infinity Edge?
I think either Infinity Edge or the Maw of Malmortius coming through for Jarvan. But given how this game has gone, 100% sure it's the Infinity Edge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'll throw out some options there, but have a feeling probably going to be that Infinity Edge to come through. And why not just have an extra AD carry? Let's be honest.
That's what it feels like. Melee carries aren't really a thing in League of Legends. They struggle. It's only Riven and those caster AD champions that really can get a lot done, but Jarvan's making a case for it here.
Yeah, he's doing the very best that he can. The Ghostblade already completed here as well as EDG continuing the siege. They've got super creeps heading towards that mid lane as Clearlove. So much health on this Sejuani. 3 big items in that Cinderhulk, Frozen Heart, and the Banshee's Veil. Also has another belt there just hanging out. And EDG, they've pressured World Elite off this inhibitor turret. There's the Glacial Path to come through. Yu looking to just explode GA, and he does. Koro takes down that kill as Spirit trying to get some work done, but just dies for it in the backline. Cataclysm going to lock down every member of World Elite. A double kill for Koro. Glacial Path going to be taken just for the fun of it, and Yu picks up a double kill here as well. And EDG, they don't worry about the inhibitor turret. The Nexus turrets are now going to fall down. The surrender comes through. And EDG just still looking like a brilliant team. Now 23 in a